Hello, Rabbi. Thank you for agreeing to speak with me. I have always trusted your opinion ever since I became a Baal Teshuva back in college.
My pleasure, Steve. Or, I should say, my pleasure, Shlomo. I am so proud of what a great Yid you have become. How are things with you these days?
I am a senior associate at a large law firm.
Mazel tov.
I make an income in the low six figures.
Mazel tov.
All three of my children are enrolled in Jewish day schools.
Mazel tov.
I live in an expensive suburb of a huge city.
Mazel tov.
I have never attended a single school play that my daughter was in. My wife attended and the other parents thought that we were divorced.
Your children do not need two parents. Your job is to earn money. Your wife will raise your children. Fatherhood is goyish. We do not hold by being a dad.
On the day of my eldest son's birthday, I was in another country taking a deposition. One of my wife's friends suggested that if our marriage is ending, she could recommend an eligible bachelor.
Your children do not need two parents. Your job is to earn money. Your wife will raise your children. Fatherhood is goyish. We do not hold by being a dad.
I billed 3,000 hours last year. I had sex with my wife twice.
Mazel tov.
I earn over $100,000 a year, but most nights I eat a grilled cheese sandwich for dinner. My kids do not eat meat except on Shabbos.
Nutrition is a goyish value. We do not hold by protein.
I never see my children from Sunday to Friday. I only see them on Shabbos.
That is why Shabbos is so wonderful. Because it allows us to spend time as a family.
I told my wife that I wanted to take a lower-paying legal job that would allow me to spend more time with my family. She told me that she would divorce me and slice off my genitalia if I ever dared to discuss the idea again.
A good wife will prioritize the children's Jewish education over the children's having a father.
I have no retirement savings. My wife has no retirement savings. We have no savings for our children's college educations because we have to spend everything that either of us earns in order to pay for day school and the ludicrously high cost of living in an overpriced Jewish town.
Retirement is a goyish value. Have immuneran bitachon. College is a goyish value. Have immuneran bitachon. The most important thing to spend money on is your children. I hope that you are saving for a nice expensive wedding for your daughter and a long stay for her and her husband in a bought and paid apartment while he sits on his buttocks in Kalel and she pumps out the babies like a rabbit.
My daughter is 8 years old.
It is never too early to start saving. Expensive weddings and 10 years of fully subsidized living for the young couple are not cheap.
I remember back when I was in college and got involved with your Kiruv organization.
Those were heady days. You were such a lost soul.
I remember how wonderful the family atmosphere of Shabbos with you and your wife, the Rebetzin, and your children, was every week.
We try to inspire. We try to bring Yidden back to Yiddishkeit.
My children do not recognize me when I come home from work early on Fridays to have dinner with them.
You should get them to an eye doctor as soon as possible. They may need glasses.
Did you know that in my secular home, growing up, we had dinner with my mother and father almost every night of the week?
That is impossible. That only happened on Leave It to Beaver reruns and in fairy tales.
No, it was the 80s. And the 90s. I remember it.
Secular Jews have no family life. They all spend their time having sex with the goyim and contracting syphilis.
Most of the families that I grew up around were not Jewish. Most of those non-Jewish families had a routine that was similar to my own family's routine. Most of them, just like us, ate dinner together as a family most nights of the week, not just on one night and one afternoon on the weekend.
That is impossible. Goyim spend all of their time committing random acts of antisemitism.
No, actually, most of the non-Jews who I grew up around were far more humble than the arrogant Jews who I work with at the law firm, who I daven and shul with, and who are the parents of the children whom my own children go to school with at the expensive private Jewish day school.
You are incorrect.
How am I incorrect?
Those are not your children. Your offspring are your wife's children. You are only entitled to visit with them on Friday nights and Saturdays. The rest of the time your sole responsibility is to make a lot of money so that your wife can do what she wants with the children that happen to have been produced using some of your sperm.
When I was growing up, I went to high school with kids whose parents did all sorts of things. Journalists, janitors, plumbers, teachers, civil servants, etc. Nobody cared how much money someone else's parents made. But at the school my children attend, every parent is either a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or a college professor. They all live in houses that make the house that I grew up in look like a peasant hovel by comparison.
All of your high school classmates are hateful anti-Semites. They were all members of the Nazi Party behind your back. And their high schools are hotbeds of drug dealing, teenage pregnancy, and violence.
No. Actually, the high school that I attended growing up was safer than the neighborhood that I live in now. It was a small American town, and none of my classmates were anti-Semites. They were nice people. They were not Jewish, but that had nothing to do with whether they were nice or not, as demonstrated by the arrogant Jewish parents who send their kids to the same Jewish day school that my wife sends her children to.
You are treading dangerously close to Lashon Hara. I do not believe that you have faith in Hashem or the Torah.
What do faith in Hashem or the Torah have to do with a system that deprives children of the opportunity to have a real father in their lives, a system that encourages parents to induce malnutrition in their children, a system that encourages arrogant pursuit of wealth, a system that discourages responsible saving for retirement, a system that tears families apart, and a system that thwarts the development of mature individuals at every turn?
Hey, look, I would love to answer your questions, but I have to go teach a class at the college to a bunch of impressionable potential Baal shovers about why becoming frum will give them a perfect home and a perfect family life.
At least tell me why this is the way I have to live.
You have to live this way because, as Rav Hirsch said, we must cultivate true derekh eretz.
I agree with Rav Hirsch. But why, in the name of all things sacred and holy, does my derekh eretz necessarily have to be the derekh eretz of the most arrogant, overprivileged, spoiled rotten brats known to civilization? Why can't I live a life of Torah and mitzvos in a normal American town? Why can't my derekh eretz be the derekh eretz of 90% of America rather than the most overwhelmingly arrogant 10%? Why do you insist that it is anti-Semitic for a Jew to point out that the culture that predominates in many modern American Jewish enclaves is overwhelmingly arrogant and fundamentally destructive to every basic value that the Torah commends unto us? Rav Hirsch would have been disgusted by the arrogance and nonsense that prevails in most modern American Jewish enclaves. I simply want to raise my children to be decent, kind, good human beings who are also Jews who love Torah and keep mitzvos.
You are not talking like a Yid. I will advise your wife to request a divorce post-haste.